Hey everyone, I hope everybody's doing good. This week's video is about integrated assignment 2. As you can see, it's going to be due on June 8th, and for the QR portion, there's going to be two steps. One is a Word document that's going to have graphs in it, and the second one is going to be incorporating those graphs and using them in a YouTube video that you'll be creating, right? So let's get started. As you guys know, the theme of this house is immigration, and with that in mind, we're going to do some analysis using quantitative data, right? So the Zicklin School of Business at Baruch College has basically compiled a data set that has key demographics and geographic information about New York City for the year 2017. We're going to be using this data set and looking at the numbers of foreign-born individuals, so immigrants, in New York City as a whole, and then also within each borough, right? If you remember from integrated assignment 1, specifically task 1, we saw that when in recent history, US history, the greatest immigration movements were, and when these immigrations came to a halt, right? Remember, there was a lot of curves, there was spikes, and then there was dips in the curves of immigration, right? We're going to be using that as well. We also saw which regions contributed to the most amount of new green card holders at different periods of time. Remember, at one time it was Europe, and then it went to Asia and um, Mexico, North America, right? So that's all going to be very important in this second integrated assignment, right? With this new data set from Baruch College, we're going to be determining where these immigrants are residing within New York City, right? So where the distribution is of these immigrants. So we're going to be looking at this data set right here, right? So this data set, again, all of this is going to be posted on Blackboard, right, under the quizzes and assignments tab, right? It's going to be under assignment, integrated assignment 2. Here is very similar to integrated assignment 1, the table that you guys saw. Here you have the major regions: Europe, Asia, Africa, Oceania, North, Central, and South America, right? Those are the 7. But instead of being a time series where the horizontal axis was time, here is broken down as different boroughs, right? New York City as a total, how many, the population, the foreign-born population, and then how many are from Europe, how many are from Asia, going downward and so forth, right? And then how many of them are in Bronx, how many are they in Brooklyn or Kings County, Manhattan or New York County, Queens or Staten Island, Richmond County, right? That's how they break it up. So using this data, we're gonna have a two-step method, right? Step 1, right? So part 1, you're expected to create all the charts listed below. I'm gonna go over them in a second. Describe in detail each of these graphs, right? So I want you to not only create them, but also describe them, right? So some descriptions you're going to do is what major trends do you see? How has what you learned from integrated assignment 1 helped you understand the distribution of immigrants in New York City, right? So you learned about immigrants coming in, right? Now, how has it helped you understand the distribution? So where are they located in different parts of the New York City, right? This should be at least 2 paragraphs long, about 5 to 8 sentences, full sentences per paragraph, right? And they should include the graphs on a Word document, right? So what I mean by that is you will create the graphs on Excel, right? And then you just copy and paste them into your Word document, and underneath all, remember you're going to label the graphs, obviously, right? You're going to put your axis, you're going to put your title, and everything. And then after your chart 1, chart 2, chart 3, chart 4, chart 5, right? After you chart 4, right? There's 4 of them. After your 4 charts, then you could start writing and describing each one of them, right? There's different ways you could do it. You could also put one chart at a time, and then underneath each one of the charts you could write a description about them, right? But all in all, it should be 2 paragraphs altogether, right? So that's part 1, right? You're gonna give me 4 charts. Part 2, right? And doesn't this what you're gonna do for part 2 is you're going to choose 2 out of these 4 charts, right? So you have 4 charts over here. Out of the 2, you're going to choose 2, any 2 you want, and then incorporate them in the speech that you're writing in critical issues. Remember, in critical issues, you guys are writing a speech that talks about the oral history, and then you have a policy making component, right? So I want you to choose 2 of these graphs, right? We want you to choose 2 of these graphs, incorporate them, right? Put them in that speech and talk about how your policy making or how immigration has changed in the U.S. basically right, by using this graph and refer to it. So you're going to copy and paste it to that Word document as well, right? You will use the graphs to strengthen your claims policy. Therefore, be sure to talk about the variables or key points in the charts, right? So make sure when you graph this, right, talk about the population or talk about the different boroughs, talk about what you see, what trends you see, and whatnot in the graphs, right? So talk about them in your speech. And since you're going to be talking about them in your speech, I want you to display them and state how these charts signify the importance again of immigration on the YouTube video that you're creating on critical issues, right? So again, this won't be a second YouTube video. It'll be that same YouTube video that you're creating for critical issues, right? But in that YouTube video, you need to incorporate two of these graphs. So if you did it in the speech, remember the YouTube video is you basically reading that speech and explaining your point of view. So you're going to be talking about these two of these graphs as well. So what I'm grading for is I'm going to look at all of the charts that you gave me and your explanation, and I'm also going to be looking at the YouTube video and seeing if it flows with your speech, if you where you add them and how you add these graphs um, to your speech, if it flows well. I'm going to be looking at that. So the 7 graphs that you're going to be looking at are, excuse me, this is 4 graphs, sorry. The 4 graphs are, one is the line graph from task 1. If you haven't created this, I suggest you go back and create that. This one's one of the most important graphs from task 1, integrated assignment 1, right? Remember, this represents the numbers of persons obtaining lawful residence from 7 major regions. So go back and see how to do that. Another graph I want you to create is a bar chart representing out of the population in each borough, what percent of residents are foreign born, right? So out of the population, so the top line is the population, right? Out of the population of each borough, what percent are foreign born? So remember how to calculate percentages. So this is your total and this is your partial, right? Out of your entire total, what percentage is your partial? So you're going to create a bar. You're going to first, obviously, you're going to calculate the percentages, and then you're going to create a bar chart of that percentage, right? Third, you're going to create a pie chart representing the number of foreign borns in each borough. So again, you're looking at this number right here, the foreign born population, but instead of finding percentage, you're just creating a pie chart of how many people are foreign born in each of the borough, right? So there's going to be 5 slices, right? The 5 slices are going to be the 5 boroughs, and it's going to show you percentage of which out of the total foreign born, how many are in Bronx, what percentage is Bronx, what percentage is Brooklyn, and so on, so forth. Lastly, you're going to create a multi-bar graph, right, showing the number of foreign individuals in each borough, with each bar representing a different major region, right? So there's 7 of them. So going back to this, you're going to be taking data from each of the 7 major regions, so Europe, Africa, Asia, so on. So I highly recommend you copy and paste, make a small table over here with only the major regions, right? And the header should be the boroughs, right? So the top row would be the boroughs, and then the bottom rows would be all 7 regions, right? And you would create a multi-bar graph with each of the bars. There should be 7 bars per borough, right? Each bar representing a different region, right? So what the graph should look like, it should look like a bar graph with 7 bars per borough, and there should be 5 boroughs on the horizontal axis, right? I'm gonna have a upcoming video on talking about multi-bar graphs and whatnot, right? So I'm gonna help you guys a little bit on that. But again, just to reiterate, there's 2 parts. One is you're gonna create all these charts, right? You're gonna talk about them. You're gonna give me a Word document, right? Remember, it's okay. I don't need an Excel sheet for this one. You're just gonna copy and paste the graphs from the Excel sheet to your Word document. That's gonna be what you're gonna submit to me on Blackboard, right, by June 8th. And the second part is incorporating 2 out of those 4 charts into the speech and then into the YouTube video that you'll be creating, right? Guys, if you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. And you guys take care.